Hey guys, hope you're well. Today's video, 6 years of muscle building secrets in about 50 minutes. That's what we're going to go for here. This is a non-scripted video. This is just me sitting down, going through kind of the best tips I could give you on building muscle based on the mistakes that I've made over the last 6 years. So this is for anyone who's relatively new to the gym or someone who's just kind of wanting to further their knowledge and essentially get as good as possible and just make sure they put on as much size. This is definitely for you. Now, first educational video on this camera. So hope you enjoy this one. We'll get stuck in. And like I said, I don't really have a script, but I do have an idea of what I want to talk about. So the first thing I want to talk about is actually positioning your diet in a way that actually allows you to build muscle. Now, a big mistake that I made was spending a lot of time in a deficit and not enough time in a surplus. Now, to put it straightforward, if you're in a deficit, you're going to be losing fat. You're going to be getting to a point where you've got the condition and you're nice and lean, but you're never really going to be in a point where muscle growth is favorable. Therefore, it is in your interest to be in a surplus. So when we're looking to do a sort of cut, let's make sure that we're in and out of that and we're, not spending the majority of our time in that phase. A big mistake I made last year was essentially spending around 12 months in a deficit because I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't taking it seriously. I was half in, half out. And I almost just cringed thinking about how much time I wasted. I could have been spending growing muscle. Not to mention at a young age where my testosterone is at its peak. That's the time where you want to be growing muscle and using the surplus to your advantage. So the big tip here is get yourself into a position where you can be in a surplus. That's the prime reasoning and rationale behind a deficit, to get you lean enough so you can then spend the majority of time in a surplus, because that's where the muscle is built. When a bodybuilder goes into an off season, that's where the look comes. That's where the training is effective. That deficit is a good time to perfect your training, get the form and reps right, and really get that mind to muscle connection, potentially do a bit of body recompositioning. However, you're not going to be putting on the majority of your muscle. That comes in the surplus. So get yourself into a position where you're nice and lean, but get in and out of those deficits and spend the majority of the year in a surplus. Because if you want to grow muscle, and the reason you clicked on this video is because you want to know the muscle building secrets, that's secret number one. Stay in the surplus for as long as possible. So now we know that. How do you actually stay in a surplus for as long as possible? So this is tip number two. Now, most people fuck this up, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. No bullshit. What people do is they either dirty bulk or eat everything. They assume that, okay, we now need to be in a surplus, so we can just eat whatever. Doesn't matter. And the truth is, there's definitely a bit of leeway. At the end of the day, you're not dieting. You can have excess calories. You can have an off-plan meal here and there. But at the end of the day, the calories you consume and the macronutrients that you end up consuming, they need to be used. They need to be utilized towards muscle growth. And the surplus calories that you consume will definitely aid with muscle growth. It will give you that energy. Those carbohydrates will give you that extra glycogen, and that is going to fuel your performance. But there is a fine line. There is an optimum point. After that, your body simply has too much calories in the system. There's too many calories there to play with. So what do we do now? Well, we store it as fat. Now, it's really important to understand this. You're trying to just essentially have the perfect surplus to make sure that you're fueling muscle growth and you're not increasing fat. And there will be little overlaps. You will eventually gain some fat. You've got to get uncomfortable towards the tail end. That's absolutely fine. But if you don't do this correctly, you will just gain fat when you shouldn't have, and then you will basically end your surplus sooner, and as a result, you will have to go into a deficit for longer, as we spoke about, which is not a good move. So, what should you do? Well, we want to make sure that we're eating just the right amount of calories to fuel muscle growth. And the way you do this is very, very simple. So let's just say you've come out of a deficit. We instantly bump up calories, we reverse, we get ourselves to maintenance, and then we just review the scales. And we're looking for around 0.4 to 0.8 maximum per week. Now, if you're gaining at that rate, happy days. Leave it. Don't up the calories. More calories does not equal more progress. You keep rinsing those calories for everything they've got until that weight, that scale stops. There's no such thing as speeding up progress. You cannot speed muscle growth. Like, you cannot speed it up. If you just simply up your calories because you want faster progress, you are selling yourself a lie. The scale will go up, but you are just adding fat. Simple as that. You're not adding muscle. So be patient and realize that if you add zero point 0.4 to 0.8, let's say 0.6 on average per week, over a month, we can assume that you could potentially gain 2 kilogram of lean muscle. Whether that's all lean muscle, not too sure. Maybe it's a kilo or so. But 2 kilo on the scale per month, very, very healthy. And if you extrapolate that now across a 6-month period, we're looking at around 12 kilos. So if you're someone who's starting at 70, you can expect to be around 82 after 6 months. And if you do everything right and you do everything nice and slowly, well, you can stay in that surplus for a year and potentially put on another 24. So you can go from 70 to 94 in the space of a year. And just think how much you will have grown in that period when you then cut off that fat. And that's the way to play it. If you simply just chase the numbers on the scale and you're so obsessed with, okay, I need to hit this weight goal, and forget about your actual body composition and are we growing muscle, then you're at a disadvantage. So my best advice is make sure that you're not just chasing a number on a scale. You're being very, very meticulous, just as you are in a deficit. You're tracking your weight every single day and you're basing your averages, and you're making sure that you're not gaining too fast and also you're not gaining too slow. You have that happy medium. That is the key to make sure that you're actually putting on size and you're not gaining a bunch of excess fat. Because again, if you do that, what you're going to do is essentially you're going to get to a point where you're too soft, you've got too much body fat, you don't like the way that you look within 4 months, when we should have got to that point after 12 months, because it is inevitable. And then what you do is you cut. But we just realized earlier in that first tip that cutting is possibly the least favorable place you want to be in if you're trying to grow muscle, which is again why you clicked on this video. So you don't want to be cutting all the time. And in order to do that, as they say, to prevent is better than to cure. So make sure that you're doing everything by the book, nice and slowly from a dieting perspective, and you will make sure that you gain good muscle, good tissue, and not fat. So then when we come to the end of that surplus, that gaining phase, after perhaps a year, we've still got a decent condition. We can still see our abs, and there's only a 12-week diet, a 12-week prep, just to get you ready and just see what we've put on, pull off all of that fat, see what the condition's like, and rinse and repeat that process. There's a reason why bodybuilders only do a 12 to 16-week prep. No one does an 8-month prep, 12 to 16 weeks. Why? Because they manage the off-season and the gaining phase correctly, and they follow the tips that I just gave you. If you do that, you will change the way your physique looks for the better, the trajectory of your bodybuilding career, if you will, because you actually understand that in order to look your best in a cutting phase, it's all down to the gaining phase. So I hope that makes sense. And I'm going to give you the third tip now that not many people speak about. In order to make sure that the scale goes up every single week, you cannot simply just eat more calories and then train and then we must grow muscle. It's not how it works. At the end of the day, there are 3 pillars to muscle growth, very, very simply. 1, you must train hard enough to actually stimulate growth. 2, you must have enough nutrients, enough macronutrients, carbohydrate, calories to fuel new muscle. And 3, recovery. You must actually be getting enough sleep to begin with, and you must actually be allowing for rest days to make sure that you're not overtraining and you're recovering. If you have those 3, you have the perfect ingredients for muscle growth. Now, one thing that people don't realize is that the training intensity is what stimulates the growth in the first place. So if that's not there, and if that isn't at 100%, which it never will be, it can always be improved, then you have a lagging factor. So what I like to say to clients is, and I really keep clients their calories low in gaining phases. Why? Because I know no one is that advanced of a trainer as they think they are. I review every single person's form clips, and there's always lapses that I see. And I will tell you exactly why that is, what that's down to. And a very, very good analogy I like to say is, let's just squeeze the juice out of a lemon. And the lemon is training. And what I mean is, let's get to a point where our training is perfect. We're hitting rep ranges. We know how to progress every single session. We are using the calories that we're putting into our body to our advantage to train heavy as fuck. We are taking our mindset to a place that hasn't been, really using those mental barriers and just fucking breaking through them when we're pushing on those lifts. And we're really focusing on our tempo, our accuracy, making sure we've got mind to muscle connection. Let's squeeze all the juice out of that lemon before we even think about increasing the calories. because that's what's going to fuel the majority of your muscle growth. Most people have recovery. No one really overtrains. Most people can eat the calories, but they forget that it's all down to the training intensity. And once you have that down, then you have a sustainable model. Because what we want to do is we want to squeeze the juice out of that. And then when you're consistently upping your lifts and you're doing it with the correct foundation, the perfect tempo, 3 seconds down, 1 second in the shorten, 1 second in the lengthen, you're feeling and you know exactly what muscle group you're targeting. Your program is perfectly curated for your physique. Once you have all of that, and then we start to see, okay, now the scale is not really increasing. Now our lifts are starting to plateau. Let's use calories as a bit of a tool. Let's increase them and let's just see what that extra glycogen, because we don't change protein and fats. Protein and fats stay stagnant. Carbohydrates are what we increase calories by. Why? Because that is going to give us extra energy, extra glycogen, which then goes into our training performance, which logically assumes that those calories get used, which means you're pushing for more muscle growth as opposed to more fat, if that makes sense. And that way, you're going to consistently get stronger. And if you get stronger, you get bigger. Simple as that. So I hope that makes sense. Now, number 4. There's definitely a mental aspect to training that not many people speak about. And this is something that genuinely can't be taught. I've got this 100%. I'm very good at training, in my opinion. It's taken time. Maybe I'm just used to it. I've worked on it. But I can take myself to a place where I don't want to be the majority of the time. It's almost ingrained in me. And I've noticed through coaching various clients for the past 2 years now, some people just don't have it. And that's absolutely fine. It's not taught. And one thing I will say right now is you need to be able to have a serious amount of mental focus and being able to actually switch your mind off when you're doing a set to actually get the most out of it. And I've proven this time and time again, that there are times where you will have this complete inner focus in your mind and you will get extra reps that you didn't think were there because you were focused. And I can give you some tips and hacks on how to do this. But I'll give you a few examples. Now, first off, and this is crucial, especially when you're in a surplus, even when you're in a deficit. You have to say to yourself when you go into the gym, I will not do what I did last week. Because if I do the same shit, I cannot expect different results. It's the thought of staying the same or even having the notion where that's potentially even allowed should be eradicated from your mind. That's not allowed. You cannot go into the gym and say, oh, well, I'll do the same reps. To me, that's a waste of a session. I did the same shit, but I've had a whole week to recover. What the fuck? No. When I see what I did last week, before I've even done the set, I put what I want to achieve on the actual tracking app and I go and do it. And when it gets hard and I know I'm facing that 12th rep that I did last week, I fucking lock in. I say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going forward. And that takes a level of mindset that you need to have, and you need to understand the path that you're on and what you're trying to do. You're trying to build some serious muscle. It's not going to come accidentally. It might come at the start when it's easy. You can just fucking sneeze, touch a weight, and then bang, you got muscle. But eventually, after 2 years of training, it gets difficult. And this is the level of mindset you need to fucking have. You need to be able to say, right, I'm going to come in here and I am not going to get pushed around. I'm going to fucking lift this shit and I don't care if I die. Like, to me, the pain of not increasing my lifts is greater than the pain of the fucking bar collapsing on my chest. I don't care. Like, and I swear to God, it works. I have proven it to myself in so many times. I often bench without a spot and I go for reps that really, really aren't there. Like, dangerous reps. And I get them done. Why? Because there's no fucking other option. I'm not going to drop it in front of a whole gym. And that's just like the level of pushing yourself. And something my coach taught me, which is a fucking cool little analogy that will really help you. Imagine when you get to, imagine you did 12 reps on the bench at this weight last week and you get to about 12 reps there and it starts to really hurt now. You're starting to fail. Imagine this is like called the money chamber, right? And then this is where essentially you start to focus, and this is where the most cash is collected. This is where you make the most amount of money, right? This is where you make the most amount of gains. Nothing happened before the 12 reps, but it all happens now. This is where you have to start breathing. You have to start focusing and go, right, let's get these extra reps. And that's where the gains come. That's when, I think it was Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali who said it. He said, Only start counting when it starts to fucking hurt, because that's where the greatness is found. And this is what's not talked about. It's not a case of, oh, okay, I've just got one rep. Push yourself. Fucking take yourself to a different place, and realize that the beauty, the gains that you're looking for are in those last reps, those last extra reps when you don't want to do them. Training should not necessarily be easy. If you come out of the gym and say, oh, that was an easy session, you fucked up. Because why? You could have simply worked harder. You could have lifted more weight. You could have done more reps. And this is something that's not spoken about as much. Training intensity is so key. Having that intensity with the correct form, going hard, but making sure that your chest press looks like this, like that. You see, you're not just fucking going like that, with the heaviest amount of weight. I'm not saying drop the weight and do lightweight. No, get this form right and add so much weight to it, and to the point where you don't sacrifice that form, but realize that mental fortitude, mental focus is crucial when it comes to training. And that is how you actually grow muscle, and you will squeeze the juice out of a lemon. Constantly reviewing your form clips, constantly reviewing, are you actually connecting with these movements? Close your eyes. A great tip, close your eyes. Literally, it's impossible not to feel focus on the muscle you're targeting when your eyes are closed. I do it all the time. If there's a weird movement I don't really know, I just close my eyes. I say, what am I trying to target? Okay, this one, and then I feel it. It works every fucking time. And then I went in a tangent on that one because it's so important, so crucial. If you do that, it will change everything. I swear to God. It honestly does. Now, how do you get this mental focus? Well, first off, whenever you go into that gym, turn the phone on plane mode. Download your Spotify playlist, your SoundCloud mix, whatever you need to, and have that there. You can't be going on Instagram in between sets or whatever it is. I've done it. I've messaged clients in between sets. I now do not do that. That's my time. That's my escape. I focus. I don't allow for anything. And you'll see the beauty when you just move through a session fluidly. You actually stick to your rest periods perfectly. Maybe you have a little chat with someone in the gym in between. That's absolutely fine. But you're staying present. You're staying focused. You've got a banging bit of music on. That's the way to be. You will get extra reps when you have that focus. But when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see what this person's doing, whether you like it or not, when you're in that set, you're still thinking about it in your subconscious. And that's not where you want to be in. You want to be in that zone. What is a beauty why training in the morning is sometimes amazing. It's not the best from a calorie standpoint. However, you're just so fucking tired that you can't think of anything. So you just focus on the weights and you come out of that gym with all this dopamine. You feel amazing. It's a beautiful feeling. A good little tip I will give you. Classical music. Hans Zimmer. Batman soundtrack. Inception soundtrack as well. That goes off. Some Ludovico. I think his name's Ludovico Einaudi. He's got some bangers as well. I never used to be a classical man. I've always been a bit of a hard style with EDM, a little bit D&B, sometimes a bit of fucking R&B, hip hop, all of that. I mix it up. I never want to do the same thing. But classical music takes your mind to a whole fucking different place. I'm telling you, when you're on that Batman soundtrack and you're on the leg extensions of the squats for those last few reps, you will seriously lock in. You feel like fucking Batman. So get some classical music going. And then you will have your training intensity locked in. And then we need to talk about recovery. We talked about nutrition, we talked about training intensity, and now we need to talk about recovery. Stop doing 6-day splits. It's bullshit. The reason why is because we want to basically get 100% out of our sessions. You will not be able to train 100% 6 days in a row. There's no doubt. There's no fucking doubt. So 4 to 5 sessions, change your split from push-pull legs 6 days a week. I did that when I first started, and I realized, okay, this is stupid. Like, this is silly. 4 to 5 days, and you will be able to get more quality out of your sessions. You'll still be able to train everything twice a week. For example, I'll give you a split that I do. Push, pull, legs, and then I do push and arms, and I do posterior chain. So I train push twice, I train my arms technically 3 times. On posterior chain, I train my back, so on pull, posterior chain, back there. And on the back end of posterior chain, I train my hamstrings, my glutes, and my quads. So I train my legs pretty much twice a week, bar the quads. The quads, sorry, not my quads, my calves. So bar the quads, everything gets trained twice a week. And I do that in 5 days per week. And as a result, I'm not fatigued as much. I can train very, very fucking hard. And I get, without fail, 7 to 9 hours sleep per night. How to get better sleep? I can go into this on a whole different video. And if you'd like to see it, drop it in the comments. But simply what I do is zinc and magnesium before bed. Magnesium will knock you out like a motherfucker. No caffeine past 1:30. This is pretty silly. I've got a Coke Zero at 3:30, but no Coke Zeros after that time as well. I should sleep all right. It's fine. So good. And also add half an hour to your sleep. If you think you're getting 8 hours because you go to bed at 10 and you wake up at 6, you're wrong. You get 7.5 because there's half an hour of time that you probably spent awake without even realizing. You wake up in the night, you take time to go to bed. I know this because I track it all. So when I aim for 8 hours, I get 7.5. So I aim for 8.5 and I get 8 every night. And I feel very fucking rested. I feel very good. And that is simply the key. Make sure you have that recovery in place. Make sure you're including carbohydrates pre and post workout and you're really spiking that carbohydrate pre-workout. And that will really, really help you with the glycogen you need. Make sure to train at a point where you've had enough calories. It's not the best to train fasted. Make sure you have had adequate amounts of caffeine and just fucking send it in the gym. Do exactly what I said with nutrition. Focus on what I said with recovery. And you now have all the tools you need to do to build as much muscle as possible in a gaining phase, which will actually allow you to get an amazing look, put on as much size as possible without all this dirty bulking bullshit that you see. You don't need that. And as a result, when you come to your cut, it's streamlined, it's beautiful, it's nice and quick. You don't have to spend ages doing it. If you follow all of those tips, you will build an amazing physique. Now, I hope that was useful. If you are someone who just wants to cut the bullshit and you want a little bit of help building this physique, then I will put a link in the comments and my description. If you'd like to work with me, you can fill out a form, tell me a little bit about your situation, and I'll reach out if you're a good fit. Other than that, guys, that's kind of the best advice I could give you in muscle building. 22 minutes. I'm sorry it was a bit longer, but you can tell I was passionate about that one. No script as well. Shows I know what I'm fucking talking about. I don't believe in scripting YouTube videos. I like to keep everything authentic. I've just sat down and kind of spoken my mind. And these are things I wish someone told me back in the day. So hope that was useful. Hope you're taking notes. Any questions, drop them in the comments. Other than that, catch you boys in the next one. All the best. Safe.